Welcome to the Bangers Only podcast, where Tom Lydon and his band of experts make money talk exciting. Here's your host, Tom Lydon.
Welcome to the Bangers Only podcast. Life is short. We've got to keep things simple. That's what Bangers Only is all about. I'm Tom Lydon, and I'm thrilled today to have a special guest, Gordy Bonker, who's the creator, founder of Bonkers Cards. He specializes in vintage collectible cards. Gordy, it's such a great pleasure to have you with us today.
Yeah, Tom, thank you so much, man. I've been looking forward to this. I'm stoked to get to come on the pod, talk a little bit about sports cards, maybe mix it up with some investment talk. I'm here for it, man.
Well, talk a little bit about what you do. And this was kind of a side hustle for you that's
Yeah,
developed into something full time. Walk us
yeah,
through that if you would.
definitely. Well, there's a lot that goes into it, man. I guess, prior to going full time and pushing all in on Bonkers Cards, I had a pretty traditional career path. I worked, graduated from Penn State's business school in 2018, worked in very traditional corporate sales roles. My last couple of years in the corporate world, I was basically a headhunter in New York City for financial services firms, primarily within investment banking, private equity, and hedge funds. And while I was doing that, I was creating a lot of content. I had a podcast. I was doing a lot of short form video content using TikTok, talking about the job market, stock market, economy. And that was a great way to attract clients, good candidates. It gave me a lot of credibility in the market, having a platform and obviously showing that I was knowledgeable about the subject matter that these people were working in. And, I was there during the really strong period of the US job market, the great resignation. People were
Yeah.
moving their jobs. It was kind of a crazy time. And as I was doing that, I also kind of rediscovered my passion for sports cards. As a kid, I always loved baseball history. I collected cards as a kid, but I was that weird kid that talked about like Mickey Mantle and DiMaggio and Babe Ruth and could tell you like all of Babe Ruth's stats as a 8-year-old kid, even though obviously he had been dead for 70 years before I was looking at it. And as the job market started to cool down and things weren't as exciting at work, I started to basically develop a new social media brand and channel called Bonkers Cards. And it was about everything that went into vintage sports cards. I was kind of just sharing with my audience what it's like getting reacclimated into this hobby. And I started sharing my journey building the 1954 top set, which you see behind me, and just sharing a little bit of the history, the education of sports cards, but then also talking about these cards as alternative assets and investments. That's really what turned me onto it as somebody who was kind of in that world and lived, eat, and breathe. I love talking about investing. And I had somebody bring me to a card show and I couldn't believe the type of money that was being exchanged for these sports cards. And I still remember kind of shaking my boots buying a $300 Willie Mays and, thinking that was a lot of money at the time on a card. And I actually still have it behind me. I love that
Yeah.
card.
So you started collecting when you were what, 7, 8, 9 years old,
Yeah,
but you were buying current cards.
sure.
You were a numbers guy, a stats guy, so you liked the stats and all that.
Yeah.
When did you start going from current cards? Because I'm imagining you probably were collecting in the late 70s, early 80s, something like that.
Oh man, you're date me a little bit. I was born in 96. So I
Oh,
am 29. Very young for a vintage collector. I'm
holy,
aware.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm collecting in the 60s, right? So
Yeah.
I that's my frame of reference. So when you started going into things like Mantle, this guy's been dead for decades. How did you make that move from current cards from the 90s to back to the old ones?
Yeah, it was kind of this perfect separation of time for me though. Like as a kid, I didn't buy a lot of cards for myself. It was more birthday presents, stuff like my parents maybe would buy me at the store. And, once I got reacclimated into the hobby in this time period when I'm going to my first show, I was more interested in the stuff that was being viewed as assets and investments. And the modern sports card market, although way more liquid even than the vintage market, I don't believe should be taken as seriously as alternative assets and investments as the vintage sports card market, particularly in the higher end category. So that was kind of like the natural reason why I immediately said I want to focus on this. And then when you parlay the, you know, historical interest that I had in the game, like actually holding a Babe Ruth card or a Jackie Robinson signed card or a Satchel Paige signed card, where, these guys not only are important in baseball history, but American history as well. I was just super interested in that. So that was kind of the transition into it. And
So
then,
how
yeah,
old were you when you started to buy vintage cards yourself?
25, 26.
Yeah. And over time, have you seen the appreciation in the vintage card market? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm seeing some general statistics that the vintage card or the collectible card market is now today between 11 and 13 billion dollars, and it's
Yep.
grown at a CAGR of 7 and 9%. Have you experienced that?
Oh, easily. And those numbers, it's interesting. The number that you're referencing in terms of the size of the collectibles market, it's really hard to gauge because, those numbers are including some of the market value of the technology that's going into this industry and kind of just the overall value of this as this huge ecosystem. But when you're thinking about it, yeah, you're referencing like a 8 or 9 Kager. I think it's even higher than that in specific categories of cards. I wrote a piece earlier this year on my platform. I know you're a subscriber to
Yeah.
my Substack. I write a little bit more in depth about the vintage collectibles industry and some of the price appreciation of this stuff as an investment class. And, I took the appreciation of the 52 Mantle, which is a very classic, card to look at, and compared it to the S&P 500 over the last 20 years, which, as you and I know, has been an incredible run for US stocks. And the Mantle is outperforming it just in low grade. When you look at, I also compared it to the Babe Ruth market. I've got a couple of lower grade Babe Ruth cards here. This one's a little beat up. This one is his 28 Frojoy, which uses the same image.
Nice.
If you look at the Babe Ruth category across his autograph, his cards, his collectibles, his memorabilia, it is pacing with the S&P 500, and it's a totally different asset class. I mean, I have certainly seen it. If you look at some of the cards behind me, some of them have been slowly increased over time. I think one of the most difficult things about trying to assess the growth of the value of these cards is that the market currently is still very inefficient versus the stock market, which has immediate liquidity. It's extremely efficient. The way that you acquire and sell these cards is not very efficient. There's all these different pockets of auction houses. You can sell them on eBay privately. So, like, this SGC1 Babe Ruth is going to have a huge spread in terms of what somebody purchases it and sells it for based on where one guy sees it, where another guy sees it. It's really, really fascinating. But
So,
overall,
Gordy,
yeah,
you're talking about something that I think is important. Inevitably, in investing, people find ways to implement efficiency. But there are some things. So, for example, the rating companies, auctions,
yeah,
public tracking of what certain ratings of cards have gone through. Can you just spend a minute and talking about the rating companies, because they're not always consistent,
no,
but
not at
but
all.
there is a place to go if you want to say, hey, I've got an old Mantle card, but it's a one.
Totally.
What does it go for, right?
Yeah, like with the card grading companies, the two major players as it stands right now, and as the industry evolves and more investment gets made, maybe this can change. But as of right now, PSA is the clear leader. Their card grading numbers are way higher than any of the competitors. The other competitors being SGC, which is what this Ruth is graded, and my
Yeah.
personal Hank Aaron. Then probably the third place is actually CGC, but they focus primarily on Pokemon trading game cards, which I don't really specialize in, but they have a massive presence in that category. And then lastly, the fourth and just the slow, painful death is the Beckett. The Beckett was the powerhouse of the sports card industry for a long time. They really just did not move correctly with card grading. They still have their niches that they're important in. They're kind of the gold standard for patch cards and specific autograph cards, but the big players are PSA and SGC. And what you're looking at when you're getting a card graded, this is a good kind of comparison here. You'll see these two cards. If I show you this Ruth up close, you're going to see all of these creases in the card, right? The
Yeah.
card's been folded, the corners are rounded, the color is faded. It's a one. The scale goes between 1 and 10. Now, on the total other side of the spectrum, when it comes to vintage, when you start to see stuff from this time period in this high of grade, these cards can
Wow.
become very, very valuable. So this is
Yeah.
Hank Aaron's rookie card. This is like my favorite card in my personal collection. You'll see this is a grade 7. Now, on the total reverse here, this card looks pack fresh, right? The color is
Yeah.
very strong. The centering is really good on the left to right side of the print. The corners are great. There's really no issues in the card, and it's still a 7. And that's kind of to show you as well how difficult it is to get into these super high grade categories because they're extremely low population, is what the term is, low pop. That shows
Yeah.
that's just very scarce. So those card grades really dictate the value of this card. So like this Babe Ruth, $5,000 to $6,000 card. If this was in a 7 or an 8, yeah, you're looking at maybe close to, I don't know, off the top of my head, probably 500,000 to $1 million card.
Yeah.
So it,
What's the Hank worth?
so yeah, this is a good example of the multiplier effect on grading as well. So my Hank here, if I had a $20,000 offer for this card, I wouldn't take it. I think probably market value sits between 17, 20. I think it's a really strong example of the card. But for a 1 grade or 2 grade of this card, you could probably get into it for around 2,000 to 2,500 bucks. But as you go up the scale, it starts to get more valuable. Now, if this were to be an 8, 8.5, an 8 probably trading for around 40, 50,000. And then if you get above that, even in an 8.5, you're talking 6-figure card. There's only
Yeah.
3 known 10 examples. Those would all probably do several $1,000,000. So it's a
Have you
really,
thought about sending that one to PSA?
I personally haven't because I'm a huge collector of the SGC slab. I actually really
Okay.
like the way the card presents in the
Yeah.
holder versus PSA, where you kind of have this red label.
Yeah.
I
You're
don't
right.
I don't think the card from a presentation standpoint holds up in PSA, but if you're looking from a pure investment standpoint, PSA is the market leader. They're going to get the biggest premium in terms of valuation, but
Yeah.
I just like to collect SGC.
So I've got a rookie mantle, which is a 1, and
Yep.
I think I bought it 5 years ago. I
Yep.
think I paid 10 grand for it. But I'm thinking, man, I don't want to sell it because there
Yeah.
just aren't that many that are out there right now, right?
Right. So when you say rookie mail, you're talking the 51 Bowman, correct? This one here,
No, no, the other one.
the 52 tops.
50, sorry, 52 tops. Yeah.
Yeah. So the 52 tops is like the Mona Lisa of sports cards. I mean, that's an awesome buy to have. As long as you continue to hold that, you're going to see it appreciate. Like I just compared it to the S&P, like it's outperforming that even in that low grade 1 that you're talking about. So it's a great card, and a lot of people kind of view that card as a symbol of the vintage hobby
Yeah.
overall.
So, Gordy, talk. I know we're talking about investing, and you've got an investing background and that type of thing, but there have to be millions of people who collect cards over time, whether they were young and they never went back, or they came in at different points in time. I mean, I grew up in Boston in the 60s. The Sox were hot. I moved to California in my late 20s, and I happened to reconnect with my buddy down the street that we collected when we were in first grade. We went home, we got our cards out of the attic, we shared them, and sure enough, the Red Sox cards were all beat up, and Jim Longborg had a mustache on because he's my favorite, and
Yep.
that type of thing. And then we started recollecting, but that was in the late 80s. It was a period of time when we had another glut. There was all that wax on the shelves. We went into Target and just bought boxes, and I still
Yeah.
have cartons of boxes and stuff like that that I know are probably worth nothing, but
Yeah.
there might be a rookie here or there, but it's just kind of fun to have them. And then most recently, during COVID, I saw that things were moving. We're home a lot. I just went online, started buying stuff. My oldest son, who's really good at watching money and tracking things, set up a spreadsheet. So it was something that we did together. But all in, I've got some money into it, but I got a lot of cards that aren't graded either. And we
Yeah.
found during that period, um, it was hard to get stuff graded and it was expensive. So can you talk to that about maybe people who've rediscovered their collections, or, you know, uh, people are passing on. There's this whole wealth transfer that's going on to the next generation. And part of that's going to be card collections,
Yeah.
right?
It is. Yeah, no, it's a very overwhelming thing. I know I've been contacted a lot with people that inherit sports card collections. They don't fully know what they have. And to your point earlier, it depends on the time period in which, the collection was curated. If it's an 80s and 90s collection when sports cards were being printed way, way too high and it didn't match the true demand. And, there's still warehouses full of that stuff today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficult conversation to say, hey, unfortunately, this is better off used as fire kindle than for anything
Yeah.
else. The piece though, when you do inherit a larger collection and you're thinking of what to do with it, the card grading process, the card grading companies did have that digestion period in 2020, 21 where we saw a lot new collectors come in, people opening cards in their attics. And they actually did like have a 6-month backlog in terms of how long it was taking for cards to get turned around for grading. Today, it's a little bit better of a situation with both PSA and SGC. Actually, the holding company that owns PSA acquired SGC. So, although these are two, different brands, they're in the same ownership group. And with that, PSA Collectors, which is the name of the holding company, has invested more resources into graders. You can expect, SGC to have a turnaround time of about 15 to 20 days. PSA is still around 3 months on the more standard. They're a little bit slower, but they still have a huge volume. The thing that I would tell people to think about when looking into grading their cards, and I've written about this on my platform in the past and done videos, is you need to know a baseline assumption of A, what the condition roughly would be, and then B, what is this going to be worth post grading? Because if the card post grading isn't going to be worth the $20 to $25 grading fee, then you shouldn't be grading it.
Yeah.
I typically say the card's got to be worth at least $50 for it to be worth your time. And the qualities that assess the condition of the card is the edges, corners, surface, the registration. But the time period is really the important piece here. Is this player a Hall of Famer, and did he come from a time period when card production wasn't as printed? So we're talking 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Some of the stuff in the 70s and early 80s could be worth money, but it really depends on the player.
Yeah. I want to talk for a second about the National. So
Okay.
maybe share with everybody what the National is, what it's all about, and maybe a little bit about your experience.
Yeah. So the National is referred to as the National Sports Collectors Convention. It's the largest card show in the world. It is hosted every year in a different US city. The next 2 years are actually still going to be in Chicago, but the board does have a vote every year. So they just voted this year that in 2028, it's going to be going to Detroit. So everybody comes from all corners of the country, all corners of the world to the show. It is unlike any other sports collecting card show you've ever been to. It's absolutely massive. There was over 100,000 people that attended this
Wow.
year. And obviously, there's thousands of different dealers and vendors that are set up with all different types of cards and collectibles for, collectors to come in, buy, sell, trade. But there's also an extremely large corporate presence at this event as well. So you have all the major grading companies there. You have all of the big name auction houses. Some of the big name auction houses, Heritage Auctions, REA, Golden, who has the hit show on Netflix right now, King of Collectibles. So all of the big players in the industry come to this event. It's a week-long show. It's absolutely crazy. I think I slept for half the amount of time I probably should have when I was out there, but it was a great show. You see a lot of
Yeah.
stuff you don't usually see. For me
Well,
personally,
I love seeing the clips that you
yeah,
had from the show. And again, we're going to tell people how they can stay in touch with you.
sure,
But,
yeah,
doing
the
the TikTok clips and YouTube clips, it's awesome because there's all these little nuggets that really generate some excitement. And if anybody has any interest in card collecting, man, you really get people moving when you to some of the people you're talking to. You showed some of the cards that were going to be in the auction. I mean, the memorabilia that was around. It's the real deal.
It is cool, man. The video content at that show was great for me. I think I was able to give a sense to the audience what it was like being out there. But you speak to an important piece of why I think the hobby is poised to really 10x in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's because of the media coverage that we're starting to get on this whole industry. I'm a very, very small fish in this overall large pond of content creators and media companies that are being formed because there are so many collectors and these people are extremely passionate about collecting and their favorite athletes and their teams. There's that emotional, nostalgic connection that we all have as sports fans. And, to be able to buy these cards or pieces of memorabilia attaches yourself a little bit closer to that nostalgia. So you have creators like myself. There's a couple other larger names, King of the Cards, Card Collector 2, the whole Sports Card Nonsense Network, guys like Mike Geo. These people are building media channels that are getting collectors excited about wanting to see this stuff. And then they want to go out in the wild and experience it. And they want to go to card shows and they want to buy it and they want to sell it and they want to trade it. So the value of this entire industry is just starting to scratch the surface because the casual sports fan is just starting to get introduced to this.
Yeah.
The other big part of that equation is Michael Rubin and the guys at Fanatics and Topps, who are pouring a lot of money and marketing investment into trying to say, hey, look at this massive pool of just sports fans in America. We are crazy about sports. Let's get these people buying baseball cards and talking about the hobby and the collectibles and the cards and the chase that goes into it. It's this huge flywheel effect that's happening between content and media and the actual, events like this.
Yeah. Well, Gordy, you're humble because you go at it with your heart. I can tell. I mean, when you do these nights on TikTok and there are 300 people that are interested, and you're bringing some of the best cards that you've acquired, and you throw them out there, and people can buy them, and the breaks that you do, which is something we could spend a whole other hour on. I mean, that would be it's exciting, but you're creating a community and people feel a part of it. My wife is like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I like cards and I'm,
Yeah.
having fun, and I'm never going to give it up. The big question is, am I going to finally organize it at one point? Am I actually going to catalog it? Am I going to actually say it's worth something? I might, but in the meantime, I'm having fun, and people like you are bringing the best out in us. I
Well,
have
thank
to
you.
say, I bought some cards from you recently, and the card showed up, but there was additional cards, like cards from the 50s. I know that you threw in there, and
Yeah.
that was really, really nice. And I appreciate that because I know you care about the people you're dealing with.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, the community piece has been awesome. The whole vintage, the Bonkers Cards community that have built over the last few years from that point where I was just starting to go to shows and starting to curate and build out this content. It derived this audience of people that, like yourself, were interested in vintage sports cards. So it started to build on itself more. I host these live shows 3 nights a week now, Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays at 8, Bonkers Cards Live on TikTok. And one of the things that's great about it, you mentioned you got 300 people that are watching concurrently at one time. Through the course of that night, I might have 5 to 10,000 people that watch that show. And all of those people are sports card guys. And some of them, they do not miss a show because not only are they interested to see whatever cards I picked up at the show, but they're interested to see Tom or Dave or Rob in the chat and have them talking about what cards they picked up this week, or what card they should have picked up that Gordy had on the last show, and kicking
Yeah.
themselves because Rob got it and Tom has it now, or whatever it is. That community is something that is really, I think, another tailwind for the industry. There you go. The beautiful
That's what I
58
grabbed
Ted.
from you last week, and it's like, nothing like a TED, right?
It's an awesome card, man. And yeah,
Yeah.
you want to be able to show that to people and talk about it. So having these online communities where people actually, are excited for you and talk about it. Cause you're talking to your wife. I'm not sure if your wife's hawking Ted Williams cards next to you, or if you feel like maybe you want somebody else to talk to about this. Like for me, my friends that I grew up with, still my best friends of 20 years, like I grew up with these guys, they don't really care about Hank Aaron cards. So I
Yeah.
built this community to find guys that also cared about that stuff. So that's one of the things that makes the whole Bonkers Cards ecosystem really
Yeah.
fun.
Well, it's great. And periodically, if I find somebody who's a big fan of a sports team or a specific athlete, if I have the card or if I can grab the card and I go and see him and give it to him, it's like you gave him gold, you know.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I picked up a Dan Marino rookie from you. I have dinner with this guy on Thursday night. He's pretty well known in the financial community, but I know he's a big Marino fan and he's from Miami. And I just can't wait to see the picture on his face. I was on another podcast. So Josh Brown and Michael Batnick, the Compound and Friends. So you'll love this, but Batnick's oldest son is named Kobe. And
Okay.
I knew that, and I brought him a Kobe rookie card and gave it to him during the podcast. And it was, again, are you kidding me? And like he's got like a tear in his eye. And I gave Josh a Ewing card because I knew he was a big fan. And we were talking about, at the time, all the digital stuff that's going on. And I can't relate to that. And I just said, look, while all this stuff is growing and digital and crypto is going, which is great. I mean, it's opening up a brand new market. Don't forget this stuff because it's worth something.
Tom, I have listened to every single episode of Compound and Friends since they started. I've listened to Animal Spirits since I was in college when Michael and Ben first started that show. Like, I am a total huge fanboy of those guys. So that's awesome that you were with them and that they've picked up some cards from you. I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think, I remember on their 100th episode, I believe, they had Darren Ravel on, who
Yeah.
is a big voice in the collectibles industry. He is a polarizing figure as well in collectible space, not only from like kind of his personality, but also the stuff he collects is kind of obscure. It's not like traditional sports cards. But I love that episode that Michael and Josh did because it gave a voice and a platform to these cards as alternative assets, which I really, really strongly believe that they are, especially when you go into more premium categories. So that's awesome that you did that. And yeah,
Well,
I think
listen, one day they have a big conference in Huntington Beach in September.
yeah,
It's called Future Proof. You got to
yep.
make your way out there. And they also do it in Miami in March, I believe.
Are you
But
going to Future Proof?
yeah,
Oh my God, that's awesome. I listen to them talk about it every week, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So we have a place in Huntington. So anyway, we'll talk about that offline, but that would be great. And it would be great for you to connect with them someday. Hey, listen, as this grows, you should be on the Compound and Friends. So
yeah.
we'll make a connection. So a couple things before we wrap up, and this has been awesome. I am very, very happy for you that you made the connection from being in financial services, liking it, kind of going through the grind, but you're also very open about you had some struggles at that point, and you support a certain charity. Can you talk about that and
Oh
maybe
yeah, I've
share that
heard
a
of
little
them.
bit?
Yeah, no, when I graduated Penn State in 18, I had a very traditional corporate path, right? I worked at these really big CPG companies. I worked at Mars Wrigley, Unilever, Ferrero. I was doing really well by any stretch of the imagination in terms of like what you would look like on a resume. And I just wasn't getting that sense of fulfillment. I was getting actually a ton of anxiety over it because, my numbers were good. I was performing well, but I just kept feeling like this isn't what I was doing. And even in my last role at Michael Page, the time between Michael Page and Unilever, I actually had to take some time away from work completely because I had such bad anxiety attacks and mental health challenges, periods of depression. And it was really difficult on me. And I found this passion in sports cards and I started to really connect a lot of the skills that I had, whether it was relationship building, content, just the ability to communicate about this stuff was exciting and it started to grow. And I really believe, when I left, I decided to leave Michael Page. I wanted to build this thing on my own. I was coming off of a really difficult bout of depression and anxiety over, the fact that I was leaving another company. I was trying something again. And, I was 27 at the time and I had 4 different jobs. And as a recruiter, we were trained to look at a resume and be like, this guy had 4 jobs in 5 years, like
Yeah.
next resume. So I had a lot of negative thoughts about myself. And, I'm so thankful to be on the other side of that now and have had some success building this platform. And, I owe a lot to the people that helped give me resources to speak to somebody. I still speak to somebody regularly. And I wanted to kind of share my experience about mental health. Also, just being a man, like I think men's mental health is a very challenging topic
Yeah.
to cross. And, last November, I was really involved with the Movember Foundation. If you've ever seen guys rock the mustaches,
Yeah, yeah.
November, No Shave November, that charity focuses completely on men's mental health. And so I had a vintage set break I was running at the time. My set breaks, basically, it's you buy a spot of, let's say, 54 tops. There's 250 cards in the set. 250 spots are sold, and then after all the spots are sold, you get a card at random. So you could win a Hank Aaron rookie. You could win, you know, Bob Turley card. You don't know what you're going to win. But a portion of that break, I donated all of the revenue to Men's Movember, and then I made a donation myself on it and shared it on my platform to say, you know, it's important to talk about this stuff. And, I still think about how lost I was in those periods where I was so hard on myself. And now I'm sitting here talking to you and have this incredible brand and platform that I've built. And I have a lot more
Well,
confidence in myself, but it
yeah.
only came from reaching out, getting help, and being comfortable talking about it. So, yeah, I appreciate you
Congratulations,
asking me
Gordy.
that.
We don't talk enough about it,
Yeah.
and there's so many people that are affected by it, both men and women.
Yeah.
And my my daughter is finishing up BU medical, and she's going to specialize in this area. And she's just a rock star. She used to be a professional ballerina, and that wasn't easy. And she struggled with that, which actually got her eventually down this path. But
Yeah.
we have to talk more about it. And thank you for doing that, because we all know people that are affected by it. And most importantly, when people have a turn the way you have, like, that's awesome. And you found something that you love. And
Yeah,
it
man.
I
Thanks.
know also you're married, and your wife has got to be really, really supportive. So shout out to her. What's her
Yeah.
name?
Amanda. Yeah. Shout out to
Shout
Amanda.
out to Amanda for I know it's probably some tough times, but she's got to be pretty happy now with the fact that you've got this passion and you're killing it, man.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I remember two different occurrences. One when, I kind of sat her down and was like, I really believe that I can build this full time. Like, I want to do this. And there was never like a hesitation on her end. She just really wanted me to do it. Like, she saw me in, the highs of my life. She's seen me in some of my really low points. And there was no doubt about it. And even as this has evolved and grown, I remember the biggest purchase and sale of my life earlier this year. I bought a 52 Topps Master set, and it was a $250,000 plus set. And I went out to dinner with Amanda, and I said, "Hey, look, like, this is down payment on a home that I'm going to buy this set for. I believe that I'm buying this correctly. Like, I'm going to sell this and find the right person and make money on it." And she just was like, "Yeah, like, well, you should do it." There was never a doubt about it. And I wouldn't be here without Amanda. So I appreciate you
Yeah,
saying that. She's
that's
an amazing, supportive woman.
Gordy. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And listen, thank you. It's just this little slice of life, and we're only here for a short period of time. You're doing a great job, and you're affecting so many people in a positive way. You and I will keep in touch, and
Yeah.
I look forward to A, we're going to meet personally, and B, we're going to work on a round of golf as well, right?
I thought we were going to get a little golf talk in. I'm glad you bring it up. I am very excited about it. I would love to play with you, man. Whenever, wherever I'm down, I love to play.
All
And
right.
it's been like a huge part of my life. So you
Yeah.
tell me when I'm down.
All right. Well, we future proof's a month away, and we got a course right down the street. So let's
Okay.
circle around. But thank you for doing this. This has been awesome, and I'm more jazzed than ever about vintage cards.
Yeah.
Look
I
forward to
appreciate it.
catching up with you soon. And most importantly, if people want to contact you, what's the best way?
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. If you would like to reach out to me, I'm always accessible on email at bonkerscards@gmail.com. I get a lot of collection inbound and people questioning about that. But to follow my insights about the sports card market, you can subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. It's bonkerscards.substack.com. I write weekly, at least weekly there. And then my live show I host 3 nights a week is Bonkers Cards Live on TikTok at Bonkers Cards. You can follow me on all social media handles at Bonkers Cards, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you find social media, I'm there. And really appreciate the time again, Tom. This was
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, it's fun. And jump on one of his TikTok shows. It's great. I also got the Roger Maris autograph.
Yes, that was an awesome hit. Now it's interesting. You got the Got Mantle shirt on, which I appreciate, as that's one of my shirts. You've got the Maris auto, but you got the Red Sox hat on. Like this image right now, you don't see frequently.
I know. Listen, I know you're a Yankees fan, but I had to put the Green Monster hat on for you.
That's pretty cool, man. I love it. Well, I appreciate it so much, Tom. This has been a blast, and we'll
Yeah.
definitely talk soon, man.
Excellent. Gordy, thanks. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific investment advice. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results.